Okay, hi guys, it's Toasty FPV. Welcome back to the Liftoff simulator tutorial. So today we're going to be going over the Acro flight mode. Now in my first tutorial I went over the basics of just the different axes, what they did, such as thrust, we have yaw, which is throttle. When I say thrust, I don't know why I keep saying that, but so thrust is throttle when I say that. We have yaw, we have roll, and then we have pitch. So I went over the basics of how to use level mode, which before was, getting to that basic hover spot, that hover threshold where you get your drone in the air, and you're able to just kind of maneuver your drone around. So you shouldn't really be watching this one unless you're comfortable with at least getting your drone from A to B in some form or fashion, i.e. in level mode, being able to get your drone where you want it to go without struggling too much. So like if you wanted to go to that tractor, picking out a spot on your map and then flying to it should be relatively easy for you. Now we're going to go ahead and head back to that silo over there. Now also, one thing I didn't really go over is super much in the last tutorial was being able to land. So I would prefer you guys know how to do that too. So if you practice, getting into that hover threshold and being able to like look at something and be like, hey, I want to land on that, and then being able to get your drone over to it and putting it down. But we are gonna hop into that as well. But I want to go ahead and just jump into Acro mode. So what makes Acro mode special? Why does everyone talk about Acro mode? Why is it the apex? Well, I guess some people would say apex. I guess some could also say 3D mode is the apex of drone, and I would say of drone mode. And I'm gonna go with Acro because it's my favorite. It's the one that feels the most free to me. For those who don't know, 3D basically isn't the ability to, whereas the 50% becomes 0% and up is now up, and then down is now the other way. And as you can see, I'm not very good at it because I'm not a 3D pilot. Anyway, we're gonna hop back over to Acro mode right quick, and let's go ahead and pop back over to where we were. So we're gonna use this silo here as our our object, just like we did in the first tutorial. So for this couple beginning steps, we got to go back over them one more time. So ensure that you understand what all four of these different axes do, from throttle to roll, pitch, and yaw. Once you understand those, this is going to be a lot easier to understand. So the first thing we're going to do is exactly what we did in level mode, which was figure out how to hover comfortably. Now the difference between this and level mode, let's get into level mode so you can see it right quick, is that whenever I give it some throttle, it's going to simply pick up. So if I go ahead and I hold it at what we know as our hover, it's just going to stay there. As you can see, the right stick's really not being manipulated at all, and it's staying exactly where it needs to. I'm basically just bumping the throttle every now and then to make it go up, or if I want it to go down, right? So the difference with Acro is that when I go up on the throttle, I'm going to have to utilize this roll and pitch to basically get my drone to what level does automatically. So if we go just up, as you can see, if I just give it throttle, my drone picks up at an angle, because it's going to be dependent on where the ground I'm on too. So look, if we go off that weird angled ground and I give it thrust, it's just gonna go at an angle. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're manipulating this as well. Mostly for now, I'm assuming it's going to be just around this little bit, right? We're not going to have to do much, but just enough so that when we get the drone off the ground, we bring it back to the center. Now you notice that it might be level now on the horizon, but we're still moving forward. Now the thing about Acro mode is it's going to stay wherever you leave it. So like if I pick up on the drone, right? So let's get this in a hover. Well, and actually, as you guys can see, we're on pretty level ground. Now when I do my hover, it does basically stay still because it's going off of whatever that original degree of angle is, right? So if we get it here in a basic hover, you can see that if I dip to the right, it stays to the right. And it's going to do that no matter what. So if I dip forward and I just let go, it's going to stay forward. So if I dip all the way forward, it's just going to stay. And if we go up higher, you'll be able to see that even better. So like the thing about Acro is since it allows you to do things where if you just go 90 and leave it, it just stays there. That's what really gives you that freedom, right? Whereas here in level, if we go up and I dip all the way to the right and then let go, it brings itself back. Same with going forward, right? So that's the real main difference, is that it's not going to auto level itself. You are going to have to do everything. It's only going to react to your input. So if you want your drone to stay hovered and stay still, you're going to have to manipulate this stick to get it to where you want. Now, what's cool about that is what you learned about level still is 100% necessary, right? Because if we give it that hover, we push forward, you notice how I'm holding the stick forward, right? This one right here. I am pushing it forward at a consistent degree with a consistent amount of throttle, and that's what's keeping the drone going in the direction I want it to go. Well, let's see what happens when I do that same thing in Acro Mode. See if you can guess what's going to happen. Alright, so now we're going, pushing forward. What? It flips, right? So there's our consistent. We're going to push forward again. We're doing the exact same moment we did at level, but it's continuing to roll because it doesn't stop. It's 100% our input. So in Acro Mode, if you want to achieve the same thing as just like we did before, let's say going towards that silo, maybe hovering, getting it in the air. Whoa, I guess the game glitched for a second. It was stuck in the ground or something. But let's say once you get it in the air, you use the pitch to get it pushed forward, and then you just hold it there. If you notice, let's choose the tree right over here at the very far distance, so the one way across the field. Watch my pitch stick. You'll notice that once I get it where the angle I want, I basically let go. Now notice I'm falling, I'll pull back a little bit, just enough to get it at the angle I want. I don't have to manipulate it, I'm only focused on thrust at that point. Let's say the barn, right? So we'll do this from a hover here. So let's do the most level ground, so that's what you're used to. That way you don't have to manipulate this stick as much to get it level. But you'll just do some, just a little bit, get your drone in the air, and then you're gonna push towards where you want it to go until your drone is moving forward. Then you basically just let the stick rest, right? You're really focused on the throttle. If you fall too much, just give it more throttle, and as long as you have that good angle, you're gonna be okay. Like, your drone will be fine. That little bitty blip of throttle is gonna keep you in the air. So again, let's stop 100%. We're gonna look at that tree, get in the air. If you notice, I'm a bit too far backwards. Since I'm heading backwards, I'm going to push forward a little bit. Now I'm leveled it off. Since I want to go towards that tree, I'm just going to push forward a bit more. I'm actually going to pull back slightly. That way I don't have to change the throttle. And you use both these axes, right? The throttle, the pitch. All we're doing right now is balancing those two, basically. I'm only giving it enough forward momentum or enough forward angle where I can keep the same throttle without the drone falling out of the sky. And then I'm adjusting that slightly depending, because if I dip too far low, I'm going to go down, you see? I don't want it to go too high either. So what I recommend for first is just making sure you, one, know how to hover, right? So one, being able to take the drone off the ground and basically keep it in a consistent part. You know, don't try to do flips, don't try to go fast, just make the drone get up in the air and try to minimize the amount of input you're doing to this stick, right? Try to get it where it no longer has to be modified. This stick no longer has to be manipulated for your drone to stop. So once you get it there, then just practice keeping that hover. Once you can do that, get far from an object as far as you can. You know, get into level mode and get far away if you have to. And then switch back to Acro Mode, and we're going to choose that tree directly in front of us. You're going to, boom, do what you just practiced. So getting the drone in the air, keeping it balanced, and keeping that object directly in front of you. Then you're going to practice keeping the throttle the same. This is what's going to help you learn the pitch, is trying to not modify the throttle very much. Keep it where it's a hover, and then just modify the pitch enough where it gets you moving. Right? And then if you have to give it a bit more throttle, go ahead. Then try to pitch back, but try to keep it in the same basic realm on throttle. You're not trying to go fast. Really what you're trying to do is learn and figure out what is that balance point. What is that, like, 0 degrees? It's gonna make your drone just go straight up if you flip the throttle. So right now we're just keeping it going very basic. Obviously I'm going, let's go to this tree right here, and then we'll do another swap around. So one thing you can also practice is once you get up to it, pulling back, slowing down, and then just hovering. Now notice I actually went a bit too high on that, so we'll try that again once we get over here. So we're gonna fall, we're gonna hover our drone, find our object, and then just push towards it. As you can see, I'm no longer even touching the right stick. Now this is where you can use some of your level knowledge. You know that you can fix the screen by slowly moving your stick to the left for your yaw. And look at that, now you're moving straight without that weird angle. Alright, let's go ahead and land. I'm going to use my yaw and turn back around. Then I'm going to hover my drone. I'm going to go right back over here for the last time. So push the pitch towards the direction we want to go, and then just focus on that throttle. Again, you can move your yaw this way or this way to kind of adjust. We're almost there. And once we get there, like I said, you can kind of line yourself up and then kind of pull back a little bit. You can drop the throttle just a bit. There you go. Then practice kind of moving your yaw, turning yourself around, which will actually be the next step. So let's go ahead and move back over here into this field. Alright, so once we're in the field, you can practice what you did when we practiced this level, which is that same basic thing, right? It's okay to go back to the basics sometimes. Bring up that hover and then just trying to keep your drone as steady as possible. Use yaw. Practice keeping yourself hovered while using yaw. And if you'll notice, look at this. If I use yaw, right now, you notice how my drone's at a slight angle. So one thing you could do, practice again, getting that balance point where you're not doing much, then just mess around with the yaw. There you go. See, now your pitch and roll, you're basically balanced there, so you can kind of go back and forth without your drone going crazy on you. You find that position, you can practice these other things. Then you can practice combining those two, right? Trying to put what we just learned about going back and forth with the tree, finding that balance point, putting the pitch towards it until our drone is at an angle enough where we're moving towards it. Oh, we're going a bit too low. Let's go ahead and pull back on the pitch a little bit. And now we're balanced. See, now we're good. Now we're basically heading in a straight line. Not modifying the throttle much at all. Kind of keeping it in the same spot. Then you can kind of blend those two, right? So you go towards the tree. Now you know that you can turn. So when you turn, check what's different about the level mode. Is that if I turn this way and push forward, notice how my drone actually goes at a weird backwards angle, which is not something that would have happened if you were in level mode. So if we go here, and I turn left while pushing forward, it's really smooth, you see. It's actually really not bad at all. But in Acro, it throws you like this opposite way. So let's try it again. So I'm going to turn right while pushing forward, and there you go. It doesn't work, right? So, well, that's not what I meant to do. Wrong button. We're going to go ahead and go back. There we go. So what you're going to want to do with Acro Mode is you're going to want to turn a little bit with your roll first, right? So like, let's say we want to roll towards that tree that we've been going to for a while, right? So keep this tree in your mind right here. We're going to turn a little bit left, get our drone hovered. We're going to push towards the direction we want to move. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll just a slight bit, right? Just about that much towards the direction I want to move. Now, as you can see, that didn't completely do what we wanted it to do, right? But that is a very key step. So, all these small micro corrections in the controls, what's going to get your drone where you want it to go. So you bring up the hover, slightly push the pitch to the direction you want to go, then we're going to roll slightly. Now, when you roll, you're also going to then push, okay? Then you're going to use your yaw. Once you've started this move right here and you're slowly rolling, then you're going to apply that yaw. So let's go ahead and come back, and I'll show you what I mean. So remember, roll, and then as you're rolling, then apply your yaw, the same direction you were going to before. There we go. We're going to pop up. So we're going to look a little bit left. We're going to do our small hover, right? Then you push forward, get it where you want, Now roll and push y'all at the same time. Look at that. You see what happens? Now we're facing the direction we want to go. Then you just level the drone back off. Let's do it again. Let's come over here and let's do it towards the barn. Okay, so the barn's our target. The reason I keep landing is just because I want you to get into the habit of practicing getting your drone from a flat surface into the air. Because if you can get your drone up in the air, you're already, 20% into getting your drone flown in Acro. So we're going to point the pitch a little bit forward. We're going to turn left with the roll, and then we're going to look left at the same time. So look, we're rolling left and we're looking left at the same time. And look how smooth that circle is. That's a nice circle. Look, we're going to go to the right of the tree. So we're going to roll right a little bit and then look right. Now look at us. We are flying Acro, and it's a smooth, nice turn. Let's go around the ball. And if you notice, look, the throttle is not moving very much. I'm just rolling left a little bit and then looking left. Look at those sticks. If you notice, they're basically the exact same position. Let's level it off. And look, now we're flying straight. There you go. And look, minimal stick input. Let's go around this tree here. Roll right, look right. Minimal stick input. Haven't changed the throttle at all. We're simply just utilizing the drone's physics, right? So let's go ahead and go left. Roll left, look left. Let's pull up a little bit. Nice, smooth roll or upturn. Let's see if we can go through the barn, right? So let's see if we can do that. We're gonna go ahead and roll right, look right. Now at the end of this, we're gonna turn around. I'm gonna go through that barn. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and roll right, look right. Now we're gonna have a little bit of time here to line it up. So the same thing. I said right, but it's actually, I should have said left because I think I just got that backwards. But we're gonna let's line it up. No overthinking, no nothing. All we're doing is simply barely manipulating the flight sticks. And when you do this, just like this, when you make these minimal movements, right, all you're doing is you're giving yourself a lot of time to think. And that's all Acro time, all Acro flying is just calculated flight, really. You are the flight controller, essentially. So there we go. Let's go to this right here. Just keeping that nice, steady turn. No hard banks, no nothing. And just so you know, you can do those nice hard banks, right? The only difference is that when you do, you are gonna, manipulate the throttle a little bit. So like, it all depends on what you're trying to do. Right now, we're just keeping it basic. See, now, once you've practiced being able to do that, you can start trying to do sharper turns. Like, actually, this is a good idea. Like, just doing specific circles. Doing an orbit is what they call it around something. So let's say we want to orbit this tree. So find the target. You're going to look left and roll left at the same time. Now, if you notice that my drone, I've dipped it forward. So my drone is still at an angle moving forward. You're just moving past the tree faster than the turn. So there you go. Just perfect, nice orbit. And look at the sticks. You'll see how they're practically the exact same angle. Now the throttle might be a little bit lower in the square because we're not modifying that much. And then when we come around, we'll just do the same thing, but the opposite way. So we'll go around this tree. You can even go through this if y'all wanted to. There you go. Look at that. Alright, then I want you to try to land it. So after you've practiced, doing circles every which direction, and you're comfortable being able to just slowly go around. It doesn't have to be fast to be smooth, as you can see. So once you're able to do something like this, I want you to then just find a spot you want to try to land at. Probably this empty field at first. And then get yourself back into that hover, right? Try to stop your momentum until you're hovering again. And once you're back in that, hey, I can do circles and it really not make a difference because I'm just hovering mode, just slowly bring down the throttle. You can even let it fall until it hits the ground and just let go. Being able to do that in real life is very useful because ask any FPV freestyle pilot, one of the hardest tricks is landing the drone on purpose. So, once you got it here, just bring it down. Well, one of the hardest tricks to learn, rather, is come on down and then bring it down. So, again, we went over the basics a little bit. Being able to maneuver the drone in a very basic way. It doesn't have to be fancy to do anything, right? As long as you're able to get the drone up in the air, get it moving the direction you want to go. And as you can see, sometimes I'm pulling back on this. It's just to get the drone, maybe to keep it from falling into the ground. It didn't have to be fancy footwork. You know, give it some more throttle. If you notice right there, I gave it a bit more throttle just to cancel out. And that's when you can start going a bit faster. When you know how to do those turns, it makes it a little easier to go through things. You can start going, hey, kind of solemn and stuff, because it's just tap of that throttle and moving around. As you can see, it's all the same thing. Just messing with the pitch. I'm just popping the throttle and rolling at the same, well, the same time, but just kind of depends on the time. Once you have those down, those basic movements are basically everything right here you're seeing combined. It's just doing it at different aspects or different times. Giving a T, you can see I'm just doing a power leap there. I'm just kind of pushing through as it goes up. So yeah, those are the basics of Acro. Once you start doing that, the next one, you know, maybe we'll do some freestyling, like less of the basics of the flying, but actually going through, you know, popping up, doing things like yaw spins and popping through. It all just depends on if y'all need that or not. I'll probably do it just because it'll be fun and, you know, it might be helpful for someone out there. Alright, well, I do appreciate you guys watching. And I hope y'all have yourselves a wonderful day.